Hi girls, I know that the holidays are over now and we're getting back into school, so reading for pleasure is possibly not something that we're really thinking about at the moment, but I thought I would record this quick video to share some of the books that I love and maybe want to pursue some of my recommendations. So first of all, I want to let you in on a little secret. I used to hate reading. Crazy, I know. She's an English teacher, you're thinking. I pretty much refused to pick up a book until I was about 17. And even then, until my early 20s, it was a really hard slog for me to find something that I was interested and engaged with. So for me, reading has really been a developmental thing. I think you enjoy it the more you do it, which is a really strange thing. And I think reading practice as well is a lot like cracking open a book, because in those first few chapters you're wondering, is this worth my time? And then the second you get into that book and the narrative starts to shift and everything exciting starts to happen, then you're along for the ride. And I think reading is a lot like that as well. I hope that now we're back at school, you'll still try to allocate about 20 minutes a day to reading at least, or at least include reading in your bedtime routine, because it really is such a wonderful, wonderful thing for our mental health, and particularly when we're dealing with screens all day. So here's my big pile of books that I would like to recommend to you. And I want to start with a book that cracked me as a reader. This is called Agent Zigzag. I've read this many times and it's actually non-fiction. So for our reluctant readers out there, non-fiction is a really, really great kind of inroad into reading, because all you need to do is find a topic or a person that you're interested in and get reading. So Agent Zigzag is a true story about spies during the European World War II. So Agent Zigzag was a triple agent who ended up working for the British, and it follows his story and how he was involved in an attempted assassination on Hitler, how he was involved in feeding misinformation to the Nazi government in order to change their battle plans, and essentially how they won the war. Ben McIntyre, the author here, he is a brilliant writer. Anyone who's had me for year 9 before, we read an extract out of this, and I've always had kids absolutely love it. It is a tricky read. There are some sections that are a little dense, but it still is very beautiful and prosaic with the language. I'll keep working through nonfiction because I think nonfiction is such a great thing. The quality of nonfiction writing has really picked up in the last few years. It's become a lot more like visceral, and they're using, powerful imagery and characterization to really make the figures in their stories come alive. This one is called The Queen, Her Lover, and the Notorious Spy in History. This is about Queen Victoria, and it actually poses really quite a controversial view about Queen Victoria, who, after the death of her beloved Albert, took on quite a few different lovers towards the end of her life. Go girl. Moving on to fiction. I like my crime, I like my mystery, but I also like a really good character-driven novel. You cannot go past Friedrich Bachmann. This guy is incredible. He's got about 5 novels and I think another one coming out this year. They're all separate, independent, like they're not connected to each other, so you can pick any of them up as you find them. It's not an issue. This one is A Man Called Ove, and this one is called Britt Marie Was Here. I cried at the end of both of these. They are so beautiful. I know there's something about like grumpy old people that I really enjoy. He's also Swedish, and these novels have been translated from Swedish, which makes them even more astounding because they're just so beautiful to read. Really light, really humorous. You'll find yourself laughing, you'll find yourself crying. These are 2 really, really great books that he's written. I haven't read it, but he's also written another one about, I think, a murder on an ice hockey team, I think. So these are 2 of the lighter ones, and he likes to involve pets, so we have a rat and a cat featuring in these ones as well. Another really amazing character study that I love is this book, A Gentleman in Moscow. It is so beautiful. Mr. T, this is one of his favorites. It is exceptional. If you want to see good creative writing and beautiful prose, read this. It's funny too. And this is an excellent example of doing a lot with not much. So you don't need to know too much about Russian history, but basically lots of revolutions at the start of the 20th century where they were taking down their established monarchy and power structures. And this book, against fiction, is about a sort of a wealthy duke style persona who is under house arrest in a really fancy hotel in Moscow, and this takes place over about 30 years, and it's him living in the hotel and all these different sort of encounters that he has and friendships that he makes and relationships that he has, and it's really quite beautiful. I did shed a tear at the end of this one. I don't just like books that make me cry, by the way, even though they're really good. But this is a really, really beautiful, moving piece of work. Amor Towles, the author, he has another one which is set in the 20s in New York. Very Great Gatsby, very decadent, very wonderful. Oh, that's what I like about this one. He's constantly having martinis and eating caviar. It's very lush. I like it. But Amor Towles' other book, The Rules of Civility, is also a really interesting read. Another sort of historical fiction book, this one's on the Year 12 syllabus, and I know a lot of you have possibly read this, but it's a great one to get into. It's called All the Light We Cannot See. This plays with perspective really nicely. It's told from multiple perspectives, and you're sort of shifting back and forth. Set in World War II Germany. It's essentially about a blind child and her father, and I don't want to give too much away, but again, so beautiful, so moving. Again, crying at the end. Yes. But it's just such a compelling story. Moving on to something that's a little bit more meaty. This would probably be for our senior readers, mainly because the content is a little adult, but this woman, Kae Tempest, I worship her. I just missed out on seeing her at the Shakespeare bookshop in Paris when I was there a couple of years ago. When I bought this, could have gotten an autographed version. Bit salty about that. Had to catch a train to Epinay. This is a great book. So the bricks that built the houses. It's very Dickensian, so it deals a lot with that sort of sordid underbelly of London. This girl knows how to write a metaphor. She knows how to, use figurative language. It's exceptional writing. The story is very contained, and spoiler alert, I didn't really like the ending for this. Haven't really met someone who did, but the journey is totally worth it. And I think it's quite interesting because sometimes we really want good endings for the stories that we read, and we don't always get it, but oh my gosh, this read is absolutely exceptional. So Bricks That Built the Houses by Kae Tempest. Now here's another one that's also quite interesting. This is a book that's actually been around for a really, really long time. Boy Meets Boy by David Levithan. This is a New York Times bestseller. It's young adult fiction, and it's an LGBT based novel, and it's essentially set in a world where we've sort of moved past any concept of homophobia. PFLAG, or Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, are really immersed in school culture. The quarterback on the American football team is also a drag queen on the weekends. It kind of plays with and satirizes your typical sort of romance novel, but it's got an LGBT slant. It's really thin. It's a really cute little teen read, really kind of sweet. This is a good one. It's called Disclaimer. You won't know what's going on for the first half of the book, which is okay, because then the two separate narratives that you're reading, which are a little bit ambiguous, sort of start to come together, and all of a sudden everything starts to make sense. It's an incredible story. I'm very rarely stumped with a crime novel. I almost always, in the first 30 seconds of watching a crime series, oh, they did it. This one, pretty much kept me guessing right until the end. So, Disclaimer by Rachel Knight, amazing. Lastly, I'm going to introduce you to a book that is a phenomenon. The Dry by Jane Harper. I imagine a lot of your parents will have read this. You might have seen it pop up on Goodreads or on your social media. It's also getting turned into a film with Eric Bana, I think. This was a debut from this author and it's absolutely incredible. It essentially deals with a murder in a country town during drought. It unpacks a lot of the tensions around rural Australia and the pressures that families feel during drought and financial hardship. The imagery here on the Australian landscape during a drought is really, really great. She also has 2 other books after this one. Force of Nature. So you need to read The Dry first, then Force of Nature, because they're sort of connected. And then she's got a 3rd one which came out last year, which is called The Lost Man. You could read that without reading the other 2, but I think they're a nice, because it's not really connected to these plot lines, but it's still a nice little progression. So if you pick this one up and chew through it very quickly, she's got 2 others, which is always really, really great. So hopefully you've gotten a little bit of inspo for some reading. I think it's really important to be picking up some hardcover books. I'm so sick of screen time at the moment. So keep trying to commit to your reading diet, and I might post another video in a couple of weeks with a few more recommendations, but hopefully you got something out of that. Happy reading!